Good evening, everyone. This is Toby Green, and I am here with episode 11 of the 14 Days in March podcast. This is episode, as I said before, this is episode 11, and it is titled The $2 Trillion Deal, or maybe something more ironic and funny when I can think about it. So normally I have I have headphones in and I'm able to just kind of podcast and be able to kind of mix this a little bit better. And I sometimes start the show with a poem to kind of loosen and ease into kind of the spirit of the day. I'm not able to do that tonight because I have seemingly misplaced my headphones. So good to know that here in a pandemic, I have not lost the ability to lose things. So let's get into it. Let's get into what happened today. So first of all, the stock market, they were like kids in Christmas. They knew a deal was coming. They were super excited about all this. I mean, the stocks went up. The stock market traders, they came out of their little cubby holes. They came out of their coronavirus buildings, and they got in there, and for the first time back, because Monday they couldn't actually be on the floor trading stocks. For the first time, they got to come back, and they soiled their oats. And they said, damn it, we were inside for one day, and we electronically traded our butts off, but we're on the field, and we're ready to gamble, because we know a $2 trillion deal is on the way. And the stocks went wild. It went up by about 2,000 points. Okay, great, I guess, because after all, saving the stock market is what all this is about, right? Please don't throw anything at me. That was a joke. So what happened? What took place? A little bit before, I believe, or a little bit after midnight Eastern time, the Senate, the White House, and the House have all agreed in principle to the $2 trillion plan. So I'm going to do my best to try to break down some details, and then we'll have some analysis on this plan and kind of what this all means. Just in short, this is an unprecedented bill. At least I think people are calling it unprecedented, and you're going to hear a lot of, especially the Republicans, say, look, we got a $2 trillion deal, and, look, I don't know what the WPA project was or how much that deal was, so I don't know, but basically this deal and this plan is going to be pumping $2 trillion in cash out to everyone. So let's get to first. Let's first of all start with who they really care about. Because if you think for a second that they care about working Americans, they don't. So just remember, the stock market doesn't care about you. The traders don't care about you or your family. The only thing that they care about you is your ability to be a good consumer. That's what they care about. So let's start with them, and I'm going to work back to how this will probably be affecting you. So first and foremost, let's see here. What can we know about? So the big issue is that there's a $500 billion fund out of this $2 trillion. So a quarter of this right off the top is going to be about bailing out corporations and different, the airlines and other groups who've requested money. They've all lobbied and done it. Now, a lot of people have rightfully said, like, wait a minute. You're telling me these billion-dollar companies with stock prices in the billions of dollars, our tax money, and this is our tax money, by the way, it's going to be used to bail them out. Okay. So the hang up and the issue was two things. The first thing was, and I think these were both legitimate fears, but the issue was like, look, we don't want to give $500 billion. We did this last time, and how the companies used it is they did something called stock buyback. Let me just briefly break down what my understanding is. And for anyone listening, you can feel free to to talk to me about this, but basically what the stock buyback program is this. Let's say you own a beer company and you put out, we'll say, 50 shares of stock in your company. And they sell for whatever. They sell for, we'll say, $5 a share. Just throwing out a number. And that's out there. But you're realizing that the demand for your shares is kind of not there. So instead of allowing your shares and your company to be devalued, because really no one wants a stock and you want to see a crater, what you start doing is artificially buying back your stock. So instead of having 50 shares, you buy 20 shares back. So now there's only 30 shares out. And it looks suddenly like it's a rarer stock that you really need to get a hold of. And that's kind of a way of juicing the market to kind of get the market in. So it artificially raises the price, because the less you have of something, the more it's desired. So basically our economy, a lot of the stock market has been based in part on these stock buybacks, a large part of it. So when you lose, 1,000, 1,200, 12,000 points or whatever in 3 days or 4 weeks or whatever it was that we've lost all this much money, in large part, not all of that, but a decent amount of that was in the stock buybacks, because companies weren't able to actually buy their stock back. So this was a major sticking point, and they put together an inspector general position. This was kind of the compromise that was reached on this deal. Is they put together an inspector general to oversee this money instead of just handing over $500 billion to these industries that are hit, and saying, okay, you're great, go for it. They want to make sure that this is being used in a responsible way. And so we'll see how that goes. There's $130 billion, only $130 billion for hospitals dealing with the shortage in medical mask. I say only $130 billion because $500 billion goes to these industries that, boy, their stock line portfolios got hurt. But only $130 billion for masks and that sort of thing seems really ridiculous. So $150 billion is directly going to state and local governments. So basically, there was a lot of anticipation that all this money was going to be around there. Now, the part that I think that most people are going to be interested in is primarily the direct payments that are supposed to happen in April. So here's the gig. We are supposed to have direct payments of $1,200 to each adult. That's going to happen, 2 payments of $1,200 for a total of $2,400. That is supposed to take place over the next 2 months. In addition, unemployment benefits will be increased by about $600 a week in addition to whatever you get from the state. So you could be actually coming home with, if you're getting $500, I don't know what the current unemployment is, but if you're getting $500 for unemployment, you get that plus the $600. You're now up to $1,100 a week. Basically tax-free, that's $4,000. That's about $4,000 or so, $4,500 that'll be in your paycheck, will be in your pocket. So that should really help families to sustain themselves, at least for the initial couple of months. We got problems though. So that's the general highlights of this bill. So I got some thoughts, and by the way, I'm still forming these thoughts, but here's some problems. The first problem is pretty easy to see. We have spent unlimited amount of time hearing about how socialism is bad. And when people have been suffering for a long time. People are in a phony-ass gig economy, working 2 and 3 jobs, and now you're going to be asking a simple question, for what? For what? If you're going to have a gig economy, fine. But the federal government is basically preying on money. I don't know where this money's coming from. I don't know where this $2 trillion is coming from. And I have grave concerns because no one is saying it. Is it coming from future tax receipts? Is it something that needs to be balanced later? And I'm not a fiscal hawk. I'm happy that people are getting taken care of. I think that this bill What it says to me and what I know about politics is this, and what I saw from, frankly, 2008 is this, is that this bill we probably are going to need more money. Don't know. I don't know. I don't have a clue on where this is all going. But my general thing is always that the federal government will always underestimate the severity of a problem. Maybe not. Hopefully I'm wrong. But that's kind of my understanding. But this is a massive deal. And it's a massive help to working people, to that sort of thing. But I need to know where this is coming there. Because what I've seen out of the government is that they do this very weird thing where they will help, but then on the back end, you'll hear in future budget battles, holy cow, we got cut here in order to pay for that stimulus we did last year. I want folks to really be aware that there's a very strong likelihood of absolute savage budget battles. And if not, then you've got the alternate thing, which is if you're a progressive-minded person who sees this, you're going, wait a minute. If we have enough money to do this, I believe the total payouts for American workers is around $250 billion. That was a number that I saw. If we have the money to do this, why aren't we helping people more? Like, there's more that we can do as Americans for each other. Why are we clinging to this broken system of capitalism? I think it's a fair question right now. So I think on some level it's a good deal. Obviously, I think it's a good deal. I think it's the only deal that could happen. I think it helps people who are unemployed. I know that there was more aid. There's more details. I'm kind of glossing over some of the other details. For instance, there's increased sick time for essential employees and sick pay was done. Like, there was some really good aspects of this. I think that the fight has to be to talk about how do we make these things more permanent and not just a one shot. Now, obviously, the Republicans are going to be loath to make this a one shot. But again, I got to say this honestly. Part of the reason why we're here, they're saying, well, it's a coronavirus. The coronavirus did. No, BS. The virus did do a lot to create this world. But it wasn't just the virus. The virus was not alone. It was a bad, failed political ideology that created such a weakness. Trump didn't have people on the ground in China. If he had had people on the ground in China, I'm not saying that this gets solved. I'm not saying that it doesn't do it, but we could have been farther along. Just imagine if 3-4 months ago, if in December we had a person, boots on the ground, who was embedded with all the infectious disease folks who were studying all this stuff and said, you know what's going to happen here? What's going to happen very quickly is that this virus has the potentiality to destroy things, so we got to get ready. And imagine if in December we had a president and we had an administration who took all this very seriously. You wouldn't have this situation going on. Not to the level it is. You would have had this situation happen in December very quickly. And it wouldn't mean we would have been locked down in December. I want to be clear on that. But we probably would have gotten there in February or January with a thorough understanding of what the problem was. We didn't get there. And we didn't get there because of negligence by Donald Trump, his administration. And so this stimulus plan and the way it's going to be spun over the next couple of days and the way that they're going to say we did everything we could and we're doing all this stuff and look, we're injecting, their favorite term is liquidity. If I hear the word liquidity one more time, I'm going to do something very solid to go along with that liquidity. Look, I understand where we're at and I understand the need for this stuff. But the part that I can't wrap my head around is the absolute negligence that's been proven time and time again that just blew a $2 trillion hole in everything. And I'm not going to let the Trump administration off the hook that through mismanagement and downplay and through thinking about politics first and everything in that lens, this crisis was allowed to unfold instead of just doing what's needed. And what's needed right now. And by the way, until we're still in this situation, I'm going to be very blunt with folks, because people aren't getting tested. We don't know to this moment, because the tests are complicated.